This change is long overdue, it will actually change the faction balance finally, and you can hear thousands of people molding going out at the same time. As you guys know, shamans, basically, I think JTelo said it best, you might as well draw an S in their chest and call them Superman at this point. Shamans are so much better than anything the Alliance has to offer at this point. They are so freaking broken that I play Horde and I want them off the game because they keep taking my job. Today that changes a little bit. Today, shamans have gotten devalued quite a lot, and the Alliance is getting a really good break. And to top it all off, Bears will finally work. That takes us to the news of today. Wild Strikes is gonna become raid-wide in Seasonal Discovery. Wild Strikes, of course, is the Wind Fury DPS ability that all the Feral Druids have when they are on Bear or Cat form. Now, if you take a look at the statement that they gave us, it doesn't make stuff very clear. In order to improve accessibility to the Wild Strikes Totem or Wind Fury Totem effect, the Wild Strikes aura, which has been limited to the Druid's party within 20 yards, will become a raid-wide 100-yard radius. That's also something that's not in the headline. The range is gonna quintuple. So that's basically gonna mean so like a single druid from the other side of Ragnaros is gonna be able to buff the entire raid from away, which of course is a huge quality of life improvement. This change will occur during scheduled maintenance, weekly maintenance in each region. So I think almost every region, maybe some region in Asia is still like a couple hours away from this, but this change has already gone live. For a time, the tooltip is gonna say party only, but they intend to correct it after the next patch because that would include changing the game files and they don't want to do it just for a tooltip, so I guess that makes sense. This is way more huge than you might think. Let's take a look at the Druid and why this is an issue. One of the reasons that playing a bear tank has been so freaking frustrating this phase is because you basically had to choose between threat and buff in your raid or being a tank. As you can see right here, your chest, survival of the fittest. This rune is the rune that makes you critically immune. You also take 19 because it's 10 multiplied by 10, but you also take 19% less damage on this rune. And the problem is that if you take that rune, the rune that makes you crit immune and make you take 20% less damage, you are griefing your raid because you don't get Wild Strikes. You see, Wild Strikes is in the same freaking slot. Even in the Horde where you got Wind Fury, Wild Strikes is still mandatory because it is better. It has 20% attack power instead of the flat bonus from Wind Fury Totem, which I don't remember the number at level 60, but it is way less. So basically Bears, even though they were capable of being the tankiest bear in the game, the tankiest tank in the game, they were absolutely freaking paper because they were taking 20% more damage than they were supposed to the whole time. Not to mention getting crit. And even if you didn't have to buff your melee group, even if your melees got their buff themselves, you still needed Wild Strikes yourself because it's such an important buff for your threat generation to have a Wind Fury on you as a bear that you cannot really skip it. Now this entire thing will change on its head because all it takes now is to get a single cat druid because they have no alternative rune for this, that's their best rune anyway, so they are always going to be taking Wild Strikes, and the entire raid is going to have a buff. That also means that if you do not need fire resistance, so we're talking like Onyxia for example, you don't really need a shaman in every party anymore really. I mean, it still helps, but it's not like a mandatory thing for the melee because you have a single cat and that's it. So the bear got 20% tankier and the Alliance has a much more easy to get Wind Fury. They were having to stack 2 or even 3 ferals just to get enough Wind Furies for the raid before, and that was of course gimping their composition even more. Meanwhile, the Horde could get the fire resistance totem and Wind Fury at the same time and save a lot of raid slots, so this will be a very important step into balancing the factions. I think the factions are still not balanced at all. I think the shamans are still way too freaking broken and important, and I think the paladins have fallen behind quite a lot. Even though I agree, nerfing the Holy Paladin made sense because that was stupid. 2 wrongs do not make a right, guys. The Alliance needs a huge buff to get back up to speed. If anything, I think the Paladin should be a little better than the Shaman at all times because the humans lost the racial ability, they don't have weapon spec, and the Horde has all the good racial abilities, so to be able to match the abilities of the Horde, the Alliance should have a little more something from the Paladins, not less. So yes, I think this will be a very welcome change by the Alliance, and especially for the Bear Druids. I am leveling my bear right now, you might be able to see it on stream later on, guys, and I am very hyped for this change because this finally means I can tank Molten Core like I'm intended to. I gotta tell you, the early Molten Core experience has been rough on everybody. For example, Ragnaros was immune to Paladin Taunt. That was no fun to find out on week 1, I'm sure. They fixed that, and now they fixed like the last glaring issue I see with the bear. I think the bear is finally on its final state. Like, just look at the progress we got so far. We went from having to choose between Mangle and Lacerate, two abilities that are supposed to work together, to getting Mangle and Lacerate separately in phase 3, finally, like way later than it should have been. And we were still not able to get crit immunity through the whole time until just today. So while the rogues got crit immunity, the warlocks got crit immunity, the shamans got crit immunity, and the warriors were functionally crit immune, even though they weren't exactly crit immune. If you keep shield block up the whole time, you're crit immune. The druids were either forced to just stomach survive the freaking crits, and that's no fun, especially in fights like Gar where they hit like a truck, or stack defense, which is extremely inefficient and not even feasible if you are wearing full leather. But now that changes. I am kind of concerned on the other way now. This might make the Beta Leol too overpowered, because they were balanced with this in mind. They were supposed to survive, and they could survive Molten Core tanking it without this crit immunity and 20% less damage. So we might actually need a nerf to them at some point. Do not quote me on that, okay? I am not sure yet. We're gonna have to see how this change affects the whole meta. But I agree with this change. Even if this change gets out of hand and makes the Beta Leol too strong, all they gotta do is nerf this percentage reduction a little bit. The 10% on bear form, just reduce it a little bit and it's gonna be fine. So yes, I gotta celebrate them where credit is due. This is a very welcome change. I think it also will make PvP in a lot easier in Battlegrounds, like the range 100 yards. That means pretty much everybody in Warzone Gulch is gonna have this buff now, so that's also kinda cool for the warriors. I think PvP warriors are gonna be very happy about that. And in smaller news, I guess I should also bring it up. There's 2 bug fixes that are kinda interesting. They found yet another bug from your 6-piece set bonus. Remember when the poison was causing your 6-piece set bonus for the rogue to give you clear casting? Like, it's only supposed that your finishing moves are able to give you clear casting procs, but somehow the poison was giving you clear casting. Now this ability too is giving you clear casting. I don't know what spaghetti code nightmare they coded into that tier set bonus. Like, this should be such an easy fix, right? Like, if you do a finishing move, this can proc. If you don't, it cannot. But somehow it keeps happening from random stuff. I guess that's kind of funny. There is also some Warlock bugs. As you can see, the Warlock got a 2-piece, the Warlock tank, where they can vanish themselves, and it is basically like an ice block. And apparently it was shorter than it was supposed to, so I think this could technically be a buff. I don't know. Honestly, I am not a big fan of the Warlock tank. I like the Warlock tank as an idea, guys. Like, even though I think the Rogue tanking is stupid and nobody likes it and nobody asked for it, I am happy that we got Warlock tanks. A lot of Warlocks wanted to tank ever since we read the tooltip of Searing Pain. That's something that's been on everybody's mind. 30 seconds of immunity. Can you even right click it off? I think you can. And apparently, if you logged out while vanished, you would lose your boons. So that was kind of funny. Like, if you were booned, the boon would disappear for some reason. I just wanted to show you this, like, those are some weird bugs. Like, I would love to see, like, a note in the patch notes. I think that would be a little too embarrassing for them, but I think it would look very good on them. It's just like, yeah, actually, the reason that this bug happened is because this silly thing was written into the code, and this is why it happened. Like, logic tells you, like, how could this have anything to do with this? Like, how does a rune ability have anything to do with finishing moves, you know? Subscribe, join the Discord, and thank you for watching.